What's up, Winners and Whiners crew? It's me, Detroit Lenny here, joined by Scott Reichel. Talk some college football week 11. Week 11, right? I think I'm right. Week 11,
Yep.
I never can tell with college football. It's like they got week like -1 and
It's
negative
been one ahead
zero.
of the NFL. That's how I've
Yeah,
been keeping track.
that's a smart way to think of it. I never thought of it that way. Look at that, folks. You learn something new every day. It is Thursday, November 7th. We are going to talk some college football. You guys are going to like, share, subscribe, comment section wide open. This is interactive. You got questions about games, stuff you're into for college football, talk about it. We're going to break down the top 25 matchups, go through that, give our thoughts on that, which way we lean, bet, whatever. Excuse me. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about last week's best bet. Okay, we're kind of on a roll here, right? I mean, 2-0, or well, 2-0 in the last 2 weeks. Anyway, best bets. We're talking Tar Heels -2.5. We cashed that pretty handedly. I don't think that was ever in doubt. What do you? Talk. Go ahead. Tell us about Florida State because I know you got a rant about this.
It's not really a rant; it's just they're really bad. I mean, we talked about that.
Fair.
That there's really no point of factoring in home field advantage if your team's that bad because nobody's going to go to your games. There were some videos and I'd say overall photos that went around on Twitter. Yeah, nobody was there, which is not
No.
surprising because when you get eliminated from a bowl game as the undefeated AC champions last year, you're probably not going to get any attendance.
Yeah.
And they had basically an empty crowd, and North Carolina killed them. So never in doubt, that was a nice and easy one.
It was and I like you. I know you messaged me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days, and the crowd, picture of the crowd. And I was like, I think you had to have a 2.5 GPA and you got free tickets kind of thing. And for your whole family, it was bad. It was bad attendance. It was a bad look. It's a bad team. And nobody's going to come watch a bad team. North Carolina minus points was easy. We got a nice best bet too this week. This week's so slate. I don't feel very
It's not
nothing
great.
really. I don't like it. It's ugly, right?
Yep,
It wasn't pretty.
that's
It's
how I
not
felt.
pretty.
I'm sure some of the games will turn out to be competitive and you have a decent amount of ranked
Mhm.
opponents against each other, but nah, it didn't really click with me. Thought there were some games that I did like, if we're going to show one later in the show that we did agree
Mhm.
on, but for the most part, it's a pretty ugly schedule.
Yeah, nothing really jumps out at the window here. So let's start with this one here. Purdue, Ohio State, Buckeyes by a bajillion here, -37.5, total 53.5. Purdue's bad. Talk to
Yep.
me about this matchup. I mean, that's nothing new. There's no breaking news here. Purdue's bad. Ohio State's good. This, I don't care who you are. This is a lot of points. 37.5. I don't want nothing to do with this. This game to me defines the whole week in college football. It's ugly.
Yeah, I feel like once again Ohio State had a pretty weird scheduling spot because if you're looking at their actual games recently, lost to Oregon in that heartbreaker in Eugene, had a bye, then almost lost to Nebraska, which is embarrassing. Then they came out and
Weird.
they beat Penn State. So they've been fine. They've been winning. They haven't looked
Right.
great, but Purdue is terrible. So the argument does Ohio State basically thrive in a tune-up game? Since this is probably the worst team in the entire conference, Purdue right now is the only winless team left in the entire Big Ten. For this one, I think I'm going to go with the over in this game. Main reason, I think Ohio State might run it up on them. I think Ohio State might end up dropping 50 plus by themselves, but I think Purdue can get some scoring in. Maybe not a ton, maybe one drive, but it's a game I'm not going to bet on. It's 37.5
Yeah.
in conference play. Like, I'm not going to bet that, but I really don't want to be taking the points either because I think that Ohio State is that much better. And Ohio State, with the weapons they have and the receivers that have really just big playability written all over them, they
Right.
can maybe win this game like 45-0. Like, that wouldn't shock me either, and that would send the game
I,
under. But I'll go with the over. Give me some type of like 49-7 final.
honestly, I was thinking 52-0 Ohio State.
Okay.
And they run it up, and that's why I was worried about the over. But I leaned over like you were saying, but did not bet this game in any way, shape, or form. I didn't like it, but I'm like, if anything, I'm going to take the over, like for every reason you just mentioned. But I really worry that Purdue gets anything, and
Mhm.
I think if Ohio State runs it up, and I just saw in my head 52-0, and I'm like, I'm just gonna you know, find another one. Find another one. That's what I did. Um, Miami -11 here. Georgia Tech. I like this game. Over under 63.5. I've been on Miami all year. Um, I'm a Miami guy. I like the Hurricanes. I don't know. Just take me back to some, just take me back to when Dwayne Johnson played for the Hurricanes. I'm just into him that way. Okay, but I'm here. This is a lot of points for me at 11, but I kind of like Miami. I don't know if am I bought in too much on Miami. What are your thoughts here?
Well, Miami's a bit weird because the offense is great, the defense isn't very good. So that's why a
There,
lot of their games are high scoring and why a lot of games have flown over the total. So Georgia Tech, though, has been terrible. They got
yeah.
killed by Notre Dame by 18 at home, and then they played Virginia Tech on the road. They ended up only scoring 6 points, and they lost 21-6. I think I'm on Miami in this one, mostly just based on Georgia Tech not having a great offense. They started the year decently, beat Florida State, which turns out to mean nothing based on how the season's gone on. But the point is, Georgia Tech offensively has been kind of in a rut lately, and Miami can score a bunch of points. I think Miami's going to score too much. Give me the Hurricanes by 14, give or take.
Yeah, I think they get after them. I'll be honest with you. And I think Miami's the team that will run it up. But Georgia Tech, their defense is so bad, Miami, though. I don't think that they can stop Georgia Tech from staying in it. But I think Miami runs here at minus 11. We'll keep this game rolling here. Florida and Texas. This one, Longhorns 21 and a half. Florida's bad, but 21 and a half is a lot of points. Scott, I mean, if 20, that's 3 touchdowns. I don't know about that. Total
I I
47 and a
understand.
half.
Yeah, I understand it because you're looking at Florida's injury situation, and they have a couple
Yeah.
quarterbacks that are banged up. So it's not exactly a good opportunity in the swamp, or maybe it is a good opportunity, but not a lot of quality options remaining on the
No.
team. Florida hung in there against Georgia. Yes, they fell apart down the stretch, but they were still in it. Played Kentucky. They ended up blowing them out. They ended up losing Tennessee in overtime by 6. They've been fine lately. Texas has really not been that great. Beat Oklahoma, ended up losing to Georgia. They got buried in that game. They ended up beating Vandy. That game was not easy either. So for this game, it's a lot of points. I get it, but I don't know if Texas actually cares. I'll go Florida plus the points. I think Texas wins by like 17.
That's what I'm saying. I think this game is a high teen type game, 17, 18 points they win by. 21 and a half is a lot. But then again, I don't know if I trust Florida enough to keep me in this game. You know what
Mm.
I mean? I don't think Texas cares either way. So I lean Florida, didn't bet it. That's just kind of where I'm at there. Georgia and Old Miss. Old Miss hosting this one, and the Bulldogs. I don't know about you, but I'm like sick of hearing about Georgia, 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 Georgia. Total 54 and a half. I mean, is Carson Beck? He's legit, but is that offense just legit?
He is not legit, by the way. He's
I think
legitimately
he's
terrible.
legit. I think
I
he's a
I don't think
serviceable.
Beck's
I
any
think he
good.
plays in the NFL.
I think he's going to make it to the NFL, but he was projected to be the first overall pick entering the season. Now he's not going to go first round.
I think that was overhyped there.
I
I do
I can
believe
agree
that's
with that,
overhyped,
but
but I
he
think I think he ends up at the end of his career. We'll look at him as being like a mid tier NFL quarterback,
I
and there
think
ain't nothing wrong
honestly
with that.
that could happen if he ends up blossoming, but he throws so many interceptions. His overall read
Yeah,
progressions are just not solid, and that's why he throws a bunch of picks. But I think Dart's the better quarterback in this matchup if we're drawing comparisons, if you want to make that argument. But
I
Ole Miss is
don't.
at home.
I will agree.
We know that once again, Ole Miss has a lot of firepower offensively. However, I'm going to keep this simple. Does Lane Kiffin ever win these games?
No, that's the problem. That is a
He
hundred
might. He
million
beat
percent,
Bama like once or
thousand
twice.
bajillion percent. The problem is
Yeah.
the coach here. That is the problem.
He beat Bama once or twice when they had Chad Kelly at quarterback. Shout out to him for the CFL success. But
Yes,
they had a couple of decent games there against Bama when he was with Ole Miss previously. But I mean, I'm just going to take Georgia. I think
I,
Georgia's just better. I feel like once again, Kiffin's not going to do his team any favors. He's going to go for it on fourth and short all the time. Maybe
he's gonna mess this up.
they might turn it over on 4th and 1 at their own 30. Like that could happen in this game, but I think Georgia, despite Beck not being great, has still been a solid football team. And if Beck actually stopped turning it over, they could be a serious threat to be a top, in my opinion, 2 candidate to win the entire title this season. So I don't think Georgia's as good as I was hoping they'd be, but I think they're still better than Ole Miss. I'll fade Lane Kiffin, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think Georgia's the overall better team here. I do think. I mean, the one loss on the year, Alabama. That's a tough game. no matter
It was
what. I
really
think
one bad
Georgia
half because they dominated the second half of that game.
exactly. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I think Georgia is a really, really good team. I just don't think they're as good as they have been the
Yeah,
last
they
couple of
set the
years.
bar very high. They're like,
Right. So now they're still very high team. I'm very high on Georgia here. I love them minus the points. I think they win this game by a touchdown. And I do believe Old Miss shoots themselves in the foot. I believe it's a coaching problem. You know, in Old Miss, this is going to knock you to 7-3. Do you say you don't get in the playoffs with that?
no, they already have 2 losses. The loss to Kentucky should arguably keep them out of the playoff anyway. But I'm trying to find the actual get up performances for Ole Miss because they play against, for example, South Carolina. It was in South Carolina, not the easiest place to play. They got their asses kicked.
Right.
Never mind. They won that game 27-3.
27-3.
South Carolina got their asses kicked.
Right.
But South Carolina, I don't think it's that great. They're fine. They're 5-3. Played LSU though. LSU was their biggest game of the season so far. They lost by 3. Oklahoma's not any good. Arkansas, they ended up winning comfortably, but Arkansas is not great. They've been fine on the road though, but not a lot of great competition. Georgia is the best team that they are going to face. You could argue that Ole Miss is not the best team that Georgia's going to face because they faced Bama already. So I think
Right.
you're looking at a spot where Ole Miss has played okay competition, but not exactly elite competition. I think Georgia's going to be too physical for them to handle.
That's excellent breakdown on your part. I'll be honest with you. Everything you just I wish I could articulate, you just did. So, you know,
Georgia in the trenches,
good job.
though, you just assume is going to dominate both sides of the ball, or at least they should.
I don't see an aspect that Old Miss has an advantage here.
I think
Other than the
quarterback.
quarterback.
Yeah,
Other than the quarterback. Other than the quarterback, it's advantage Georgia at every position. I feel like coaching wise, positions.
maybe running back if you like Parrish, but Georgia has like 3 running backs they rotate. So
That's too hard because Georgia's next man up
mhm.
is constantly moving
Yeah,
here. So I'm on Georgia. We'll keep this train moving here. Iowa State and the Cyclones -3 in Kansas. 50.5 is the total. Thoughts on this matchup? I'm on Kansas basketball, but that's different.
well, it's different because Kansas basketball is actually good. But you're looking at Iowa State.
Fair.
They were undefeated. They had a shot at a playoff spot. Then they lost to Tech. They still, in theory, have a shot at a playoff, but that's a game they kind of need to win at home against Texas Tech, who
Mhm.
historically has been significantly better at home than on the road. So not exactly a good showing there by Iowa State. However, Kansas has been terrible. They beat Houston a couple weeks ago, and they lost to Kansas State by 2 in the last game.
Yeah.
Overall, though, the line's very trappy because it's only 3, and Iowa
Yeah.
State's 7-1, and Kansas is 6-2. I'm gonna go with the potential bait
Mm.
line or not. I think I am actually gonna go with Kansas to get the job
Oof.
done at home. I feel like Kansas offensively can make life difficult for Iowa State. They struggled a lot to contain UCF's mobile quarterback who can't really throw. So I can
Yeah.
see some success on the ground here for Kansas, and I do think that Iowa State, after having a shot at maybe going undefeated, maybe actually making the playoff, then you end up losing a heartbreaker to Tech. That might roll over into a random road game in Lawrence. I'll go with Kansas.
See, I'm gonna go the other way. I
Well,
like
Iowa State's
Iowa
better,
State.
but the line is just daring
It's
me to
so
take Kansas.
trappy, I didn't bet it. I'll
Yeah.
be honest with you. I lean Iowa State. Iowa State on paper in every which way, shape, or form checks all the boxes for me, but the line should be honestly like 6, and it's so far
Yeah.
off for me that I didn't bet it. And I won't touch the total either, but lean over because
Yeah,
I think
that's what
both
I'm looking
teams.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think both teams can move the ball, and I maybe wouldn't mind like a teaser situation where you go, I hate to tease through 0. I know everybody says for multiple reasons not to. I tend to sometimes. I won't lie. This wouldn't be a spot where I wouldn't be mad at, Iowa State +3 and over 44.5. Because I
I was
think
looking
that'd
at
be fun.
Kansas. You can go Kansas 9 or 9.5 and the
Yeah,
over.
you can go that
That's kind of
too.
what I was
You can go
looking
that.
at.
It's probably a smarter way to be honest with you,
Yeah.
but there you go. Let's talk
That
about
line is so trappy though that I'm just like, you know what? I'll just go Kansas. We'll just
yeah,
go from there.
it's weird. It's weird, for sure. Clemson, Virginia Tech, Tigers -6.5, total 53.5. I don't, nope. I think Virginia Tech is sneaky in this spot, but I don't trust them enough to bet it.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. Virginia Tech lost in overtime to Syracuse. Fun game there. But they
Right.
beat Georgia Tech comfortably. They beat Boston College comfortably. Beat Stanford, who's terrible. Faced off against Miami, probably should have won. Of course, they had the Hail Mary that got overturned with the replay review, so they could arguably be 6-4 right now. Clemson's defense has not been great lately. They gave up 31 to Virginia and 33 to Louisville. So
Yeah.
I think Virginia Tech can actually score against this team. I don't mind Virginia Tech team total over. Kansas, I think that
Okay.
you're looking at Clemson, whose offense has been fine, but defensively not great. I think that Virginia Tech
Right.
can get there even if they lose the game. So I'll go with that option. I think you're going to see some points.
Yeah, I think I like Virginia Tech in a teaser spot, but that was the only time I got on Virginia Tech. I didn't like it straight up. I do like the over though. Now that you mentioned it, I wouldn't hate that in teaser spots as well. I don't think Clemson. I don't think Clemson puts anybody away, but that's how I feel about this game. I'm not running to the window on this one. This game though, Michigan, Indiana, and the Hoosiers. This is not basketball. Hoosiers minus 14, total 49.5. I am on the Hoosiers in every which way, shape, or form. And it maybe is because I can't stand Michigan and I'm a state guy. Spartans.
Well, they can't complete a forward pass. We've
They
talked about this
cannot
before.
complete a forward pass. I think Indiana wins this game by like 3 touchdowns. But I might be just it might just be my hatred for Michigan here in
No, I
the
think I'm going to
yellow
agree
and
with
blue.
you. I think that you're looking at Iowa and how they're undefeated. They're dominating every game. I think they care about
Mhm.
style points at this point. So I think they might run it up on Michigan, but in reality, I don't think Michigan's that good. I mean, they lost most of their team from last year. They don't have a quarterback who can throw somehow. They've been rotating. None of them are any good. But Rourke
Right.
came back from thumb surgery. I was skeptical on how he'd look in his first game back from injury, and I thought he was great. So I think Rourke answered every question that I had. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think that
Right.
besides probably Cam Ward, the second most successful transfer move by a D1 team. I mean, Rourke has been a
He has
revelation at
yeah,
quarterback.
I didn't think of it that way, but that's a good way of putting it.
So I think Rourke's really good, and Michigan's not. But I'm wondering what Michigan's overall psyche is going to be for this matchup because you're looking at the potential, of course, signature win if you want to make that argument for Michigan. But I mean, this team is 3-3 in conference play. They're 5-4 overall. They're not very good, but Indiana's been dominating everybody. I think the line's too short. I'll go with the Hoosiers. Give me Hoosier Daddy to win this game by about 17.
Who's your daddy? By there you go. I like that. I'll lay all the points you give me in this one. I honestly I will lay it. I know I'm exaggerating, but I'll lay this up to 16 and a half. I won't go to 17, but I
Yeah,
like this.
I said about like 17. Sounds about
Yeah,
right.
that's fair.
I mean, Indiana, if you want to go through the actual wins they've had, they beat Michigan State by 37, beat Washington by 14. Washington beat Michigan. Ended up
Mhm,
seeing Nebraska get killed 56-7. Same team that gave Ohio State problems. Beat Northwestern by 14. Beat Maryland. I'm sorry, they beat Northwestern by 17. They beat Maryland by 14. So they have been just killing teams, and it seems
mhm,
like they don't really show any mercy, which I do like when you're getting a massive spread to lay in the spot. But they've won every game this season by at least 14 points, which is kind of wild, being
mhm.
9-0. So they're used to blowouts. I see it being another one. I'm going to go with the Hoosiers to get the job done and to cover.
Yeah, I don't think they get the opportunity to put it on the Wolverines as much as they would like in the Big Ten, and this is an opportunity, and I think that's why they put it on them. Colorado -4 and them Texas Tech and the Red Raiders total 62 and a half. This Texas, first of all, this Colorado team is under. I don't want to say they're undercover good, but they're 6-2, 4-1 in the conference. I just think they get a lot of hate, but they're a halfway decent team. But for me, I'm going to take the home. I'm going to take the points in this matchup and a home dog here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Thought about the over, but it is a bit high, understandably
Yeah,
speaking.
that's a lot.
I'm going to go with the dog here. I think they can win the game. I think when you're looking at the actual Texas Tech season, it's kind of weird because have been really bad on the road, really good at home, and then they randomly beat Iowa State on the road by 1. So I don't know what to make of it anymore. But the point is, Tech, I do think, is a pretty solid team. Offensively, they can go blow for blow with Colorado if needed. I see points in this game, though, but I have a hard
Yeah.
time fully taking it a number this high. I'm going to go with Tech on the money line. I think it's a close game. I think that you have the crowd advantage. We know how amped the crowd can be for those Tech games, especially in the mid-afternoon. So I'm going to
Yeah.
go with the crowd. Give me, once again, the Red Raiders to get the job done here.
I'll tell you what I did. I took the points. I have it at 3.5. You shop this line, you can find 4.5s out there if you want, but anywhere it's right around there. 4 is pretty right there in the middle. But I did not sprinkle the money line, and I'm going to though because I do like the Red Raiders here. I think the home field advantage is going to come into play. Speaking of home field advantage, the Ducks minus 24.5, total 57.5. Maryland on the road. Oregon's just like a wrecking ball here. And I found this old school logo with this angry duck, and it defined everything I thought with Oregon. What are your thoughts here? That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. I understand. I mean, Oregon's number one for a reason. Maryland has been kind of up and down. They beat USC, but that doesn't mean anything because USC is not any good. So
Yeah.
I do think it's a lot of points, but I definitely understand it being 25 in Oregon. But I think I am going to take the points. I think you're looking at a spot where you might see Oregon get up early. They might coast, and at that point, the game's over. But it's a night
Right.
game. I think that Oregon probably wins and dominates early. So maybe you want to go first half, but full game I can't do. Just in my
Okay.
opinion, too much overall. I'd say question marks about Maryland's defense and their overall, I'd say,
Yeah.
cohesion. It just seems a bit off to me. Give me Oregon. I mean, that's one thing about Oregon. Even when they were struggling against Idaho in some of the games early in the year, the chemistry never wavered.
Right.
They're a close knit team as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I see Oregon winning this game. There's no doubt about that. 24. I feel like if they let the gas off, let their foot off the gas kind of situation, didn't bet it. Lean taking all those points. Don't trust Maryland enough.
Honestly, if you want to take Maryland at all, just take their team total. I'm not going to do it, but if you want to avoid Oregon at all
Fair.
costs to try to make it easier on you,
Team
you
total
could get
is-
a team total option for Maryland.
Yeah, I'm looking live at their team total right now, 16.5.
I mean, that's pretty doable, but I think Oregon's going to win. It really comes down to how much they care, because at this point, they're
Yeah,
just winning without actually having to fully dominate for a full 60. It
right.
doesn't matter because they've won each of their last 3 games by at least 27 points, or 21 points. But you get what I'm trying to say. I think that
Mhm.
Maryland can score. I mean, they gave up 17 to Michigan. Michigan can't throw. So I'll go with Maryland team total over.
There you go. All right, let's talk this game. Tennessee hosting Mississippi State, 24.5 or 23.5. They're favored by 61.5 is your total. Tennessee, I like this team. I've been on this team the whole time, this whole year. They're 7-1, 4-1 in the conference. Mississippi State, the exact opposite of what Tennessee is. But I worry that Tennessee gets up and lays off. That's my
Yeah,
concern here.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, the main issue that you though have with Tennessee is that they kind of peaked in the first month of the season because they've not been very good lately. Beat Kentucky, scored 28. Beat Alabama, scored 24. Beat Florida, scored 23, and then ended up beating Arkansas, only scoring 19. Which means that in the last roughly, um, in the game before that against Oklahoma, they won 25-15. So if you want to just go based on the last 5 games, they've scored less than 26 points in 5 of those 6. So I like
Right.
the under in this game. I know that Mississippi State's not a great defensive team, and Tennessee offensively can be dangerous, but recently not so much. They've been a bit underwhelming offensively. Defensively, though, they've been great. So I think they're going to ride the defense here, go up early, coast, win by about 20. So I'll go with the underdog here, plus the points.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I kind of I dig the under. I can get behind the under.
It's such a
I
high total for a Tennessee
it's a
offense that kind of shut down.
60 is too much. 60 is too much.
If
61 and a
it
half.
was back
Too,
like a month ago, I can understand it, but
yeah.
Tennessee's offense kind of fell apart after the first couple weeks.
I think Tennessee gets up, lays off. So I didn't bet either side. Like the under, didn't bet it. It's just one of those games. I will say this is the best comment of the day. Scott is good, but I fade Lenny. Fade or follow at your own risk, my friend. I love it. You fade away. Likes Georgia and UNLV. Also, Mississippi State and minus 24 is too much. Yeah, there you go. Appreciate it, Thomas. Keep them coming. Where are we at here? Where'd we leave off here? Florida State, your favorite. Traveling to Notre
Probably are
Dame.
my favorite. You blindly fade them all year, and you could probably buy a boat.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Irish minus 26, total 42.5. 26 is a lot. But I laid it. I laid every bit of it. I think Notre Dame wins by 30 plus. I think they cover the total. I don't hate the over here because I think the Irish can score by themselves 42.
I'm trying to remember how many completions Florida State had at the half last week. I think it was one. I think they had one completion in the entire first half against North Carolina.
I'm looking right now.
Like, that team is really, really bad. And you're looking at the offense who did nothing against North Carolina. Not a great defense in general. But I think you're looking at Notre Dame after losing to Northern Illinois. They have it on the warpath. They've been very good lately. They
Right.
kind of needed to be.
Yeah.
But the point is, I think that Notre Dame is going to give him the old Irish goodbye. They might end up burying him quickly. The problem is Florida State can't score. I think mentally they checked out. So I don't know if I actually like anything that's, I'd say, a ton of value. I don't mind necessarily looking at a team total potentially under, but it's going to be a low number for Florida State. So I don't know if I could actually take it. But if you
Right.
told me Florida State does not score an offensive touchdown in this game, I would not be shocked. So I'm going to have to go with Notre Dame. I think I am going to go with the under, though. I think that Notre
Okay.
Dame can go up early. They're going to drain some clock, run the ball. But if they end up going up, for example, like 28-0 in the third quarter, they're going to coast because they got a free win. So I think that could be a way to get the under there. Maybe relying on some just shenanigans late to send it under. But I'm going to go with the under as well. Prefer the Fighting Irish, though. I just think Florida State's an absolute mess.
I'll tell you what, is pending any kind of crazy weather. I really do. I'm already bet the Irish, and I already took the over because I think the Irish are in the 30s by half.
Okay.
I think they
I mean,
put it
Florida
on
State's
them
defense was a
early,
mess last week.
and then they kind of like just backdoor just to the over. I think I think it's a mass murder here. Yeah. And then we kind of go from there. Let's talk Alabama and LSU. Crimson Tide -3, total 58.5. LSU at home, though. I want to take LSU at home, but I didn't, and I won't. Alabama here on the road. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so out of curiosity, since you wanted LSU, what got in your way?
Alabama kind of, it's just a story. For me, I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, and I just feel like Alabama cannot lose this game. And I don't think it's this close. I think it's a touchdown game, and I don't think Alabama. It's too close for me. If anything, I tease LSU. I'd take the teaser. I'll take LSU up and over a touchdown in a teaser, but I won't. I won't take them +3.
No, I get it. I mean, the game it's going to be a road game for Bama, so that does play a factor here. But I do
Yeah.
think that you're looking at the board being a better coach than what LSU is offering right now. So I do think the coaching edge is in favor of Alabama. But for me, I mean, Bama won 34-0 last week. Wasn't really an impressive showing because even though they
No.
dominated, Drew Pine can't play quarterback, and we saw Cook miss the game. So they ended up beating up on a backup quarterback. So I have to at least factor it in. Bama, though, has been alternating wins and losses lately. Lost to Tennessee, lost to Vandy, so a couple ranked teams there did beat South Carolina and, of course, beat Georgia about a month ago. But I think for this game, I am going to go with Bama. I actually think that Milroe's mobility will be the main factor here because they could not stop him running the
Okay.
ball last year. So I
Right.
think that Nussmeier is more of a pure pocket guy, and I think that Milroe has some other elements to his game that should give the Crimson Tide an edge. So I'll go with Alabama -3.
Okay. I kind of lean over as well in this game. Um,
Well,
I
most
think
LSU
LSU
games
kind of
tend to be
gets
a
up
bit
to this
wild.
for this game, but I kind of lean over. I also leaned over. I don't know. What are your thoughts on side or total?
I think I'm going to go over with you, but I don't know if
Okay,
I'm actually going to bet this or not.
fair enough. Fair
Jury's
enough.
still out on that.
That's fair. Jury's still out on that. Let's talk. Where are we going here? Oklahoma Sooners -3. Speaking of Missouri, they got problems over there. Total 41.5. I'm on Oklahoma. I'm not thrilled about it. I'm not in love with it, but I'm on Oklahoma. And I immediately bet this as soon as it came out, just because of what we saw last week with Missouri. But I'm not in love with it. What are your thoughts?
I think I have to go with fading Missouri here because based on how they looked last week against Bama and how the injury status is currently looking for their starting quarterback and Cook, I don't think he's going to play. So if you're looking at Missouri using a
Right.
backup quarterback who didn't score for the entire game against Bama, Oklahoma has played better lately. They're not good, but at least Darnold looks competent back there.
Fair.
Defensively, they're fine as well. So I'll go with Boomer Sooner here. I think that they can win this game by at least 4.
I mean, they put 59 on Mainline. I don't care who it was. They put up 59. I think they could put up some points against Missouri. I'm on the Sooners minus the points as well. Washington and Penn State. The Lions are minus 13.5, 46.5. Now, listen, it's official. Penn State's not like world beaters here. They're still a good team, but they're not undefeated. Calm down, Penn State fans. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because we know Penn State's fresh off the loss. You could argue that they're going to get back motivated, or maybe they have already started organizing some type of coup after what happened against Ohio State because they can't beat that team. So
Nope.
I'm going to take the points. I think that Penn State should win, but after an emotional loss like that, which came down to the wire, your offense couldn't score. You had the first and goal situation. You still couldn't score a touchdown.
Right.
I do wonder what the psyche is going to be for this team, but I'm hoping Harbaugh gets his guys up for it. And I think Harbaugh's a better coach than, in my opinion, James Franklin. You could argue it, but I think that if you take out the overall, I'm trying to think of just how to say this. If you take out the elite defensive play that Penn State
Okay.
has, how much do you like this offense? Because I'm really not a fan of Al where he's banged up and after the first drive he couldn't move. I don't think he's very good. So I'll go with Washington plus the points.
I lean Penn State, didn't bet it, but I lean Penn State just because I feel like they bounced back from that Ohio State. But I do worry that they are mentally destroyed after that loss last week. But I gotta feel like if they lose this one, because I feel like this is boom or bust. If you go the other way with Washington, I feel like you got to feel like they're a live dog, and they just actually Penn State just is in shambles and it's just crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington plus that's a lot of points right there. It's a
I'm not
lot of
picking
points.
Washington to win, but I think Penn State is going to be in a bit of a slugfest for about, I don't know, a half, give or take.
Okay, there you go. I don't blame that. Let's talk this here. Nevada and Boise State Broncos minus a bajillion points, 24 total, 60.5 here. I didn't bet nothing to do with this game. If anything, I lean Boise State minus all the points, but it's kind of, I don't want to say rival game, but Nevada might get up for this game. I don't know why, but Nevada might get up for this game. 24 is a lot. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they might get up for it, but they've lost 3 straight games. Lost to Fresno, lost to Hawaii in blowout fashion, lost to Colorado State. They've lost back-to-back games by at least 21 points, and Boise has been, once again, just the much better team. They are the class of this conference. I'm still expecting them to face off against UNLV. In theory, right now, it is a matchup against Colorado State, so just keep that in mind. But the point is, I think Boise's the class of the conference, and I think Nevada's not very good. So it was a transition year for Nevada. Nobody had high expectations, but I do think that this number is now a bit reasonable. You could argue that it is something that I would say that Boise State can't easily cover. So even though it is a bit big, I'll go with Boise. Genty might call finishes like 190 and 3 touchdowns.
Okay. I could see that. I won't. I just don't. I mean, Boise is definitely the class of that conference, and Nevada. Nobody had a high expectation, so I think that's a great way of putting it. Virginia Panthers, Pittsburgh Panthers, Virginia Cavaliers, Panthers minus 7.5
Shout out to
total.
Pitt, by the way. Undefeated team, and you lose by like 90 to SMU. Congrats.
Yeah. How does that happen? I was
Well,
just
they
going to
were
bring up
getting 7.5.
48-25.
So they were getting a touchdown, so they were expecting SMU to kill this team. But
Right, but
damn, Narduzzi got his ass kicked in that game.
I mean, straight up that final score 48-25. But Virginia 4-4. I mean, do we really think Virginia's nothing to write home about by any means? I'm laying the points here with Pitt. I think they come back after that. What I feel like was an embarrassing loss, and now they're at home. I feel like they lay it on Virginia.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the over in this game. Still not
Okay.
sold on Pitt's defense, giving up 48 to SMU last week, but we saw Virginia in general not playing great defense either, because I said before, Pitt gave up 48 last week to SMU. Virginia did have a bye last week. Last 2 games, they've given up a total of, just getting the math here, 89 points in their last 2 games combined. So I don't trust either team to stop anybody. Just give me the over. I see this game getting into the 60s.
Into the 60s. I see. I think Pitt does their thing.
I think they're going to do
Virginia's
their
gonna
thing
have to
too. I just don't think
score.
defensively they're that great.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. Might look at a teaser with Pitt down, just like closer to the money line and over 51.5 if I was a teasing man. I gotta sneeze again. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
BYU and the Cougars -3 taking on Utah, total 40.5. Thoughts on on the, I don't want to say the religious battle in Utah, but what are we talking here? Cougars -3?
I feel like I kind of have to. If this matchup was taking place without, the rising injury, or maybe it was earlier in the year, I probably would end up going with Utah.
Right.
But when you're expected as the preseason conference favorites to maybe even make the playoff and beyond, and you immediately implode because your starting quarterback doesn't play, I am wondering how low morale actually is with this team, because they were in okay form. They beat Coastal, ended up beating Boston College, faced off against three teams that are pretty good in the ACC. Maybe not so much North Carolina, but Louisville and Clemson. And each of them ended up winning the matchup, or I should say, just winning in a certain spot where I just don't think Utah's that good. I feel like we've seen Utah get up at home before, but I think you're looking at a spot where I don't think this team can actually score. I mean, if you're looking
Right.
at the spot where BYU has been undefeated, you could argue they should have lost to Oklahoma State. They had a game against SMU, which was close. SMU's good, so no shame in that. But
Right.
Utah's 1-4 in conference play. They don't really have another quarterback, and they've scored less than 20 points in 4 straight games. They can't score, so I'll go with BYU to get it done.
I'll be honest with you. I like the over here. I
I mean, the
do
number's
because,
so low.
yeah, it's so low, and I think BYU might put 40 on. I just be
I think that's
honest
a
with you.
lot against this Utah defense, but BYU did score 37 against UCF, scored 38 against Oklahoma State, 41 against Arizona, scored 34 against Baylor, 38 against Kansas State. They score a bunch of points. So you might
Yeah,
be onto something. I think you might need a touchdown from Utah, but I can see a 34-7 type finish, and that ends up getting you to
it's just so
41. But
low, 40.5. It's
Utah's
just
lost 4
screaming
straight
for
because
you.
they can't score. I'm not going to back them suddenly because they figured it out. I feel like they
No,
might have
yeah,
quit
they
on the
didn't do
season.
that.
Yeah.
I like BYU minus the points here. I definitely think they put it on them. It's a little actually low considering the last couple weeks with Utah and what you think they can do. It does it give off that trappy vibe?
Honestly,
Only
it might,
-3?
but I think morale counts. You can make an argument that the line should be 3 if we knew for a fact Utah was going to care. I am wondering if they're going to
How
completely
much do they
roll over,
show up?
because they have been kind of rolling over for the last couple weeks.
And you think about it, just for the point we made last week about Florida State. How many fans? What's the attendance going to be here in Utah?
It's going to be an interesting one because it is, of course, the religious rivalry. It's at 10 o'clock Eastern, so probably a decent amount of crowd. But I think if you're comparing it to Utah when they're good at football, probably not close.
Okay.
But the game itself, with the storylines behind it, should do quite well on TV.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now let's talk. This is the last game we have before we get to our best bet. Cougars -20.5, total 69.5. Utah State is 2-6. Exact opposites. Washington State 7-1 here. Do we believe the Cougars can lay this kind of number though?
I think it makes sense. I mean, Washington State offensively solid. You're looking at Utah, and they can't guard anybody, so that is a good matchup for
Mhm.
pretty much anybody on the Cougars roster offensively. You're looking at Utah, though, and they've been terrible. Did win against the well, I mean, I'll put it this way: Utah State, I just think, is not a very good football team. I think Utah State's a team that is really underwhelming defensively. We've seen them get smacked before earlier in the year against some pretty underwhelming teams in hindsight. They lost 48-0 to USC. They turned out to not be a great team. 38 points allowed to Utah. That team can't really score. Gave up 62 to Boise, 50 to UNLV, 50 to New Mexico. I just see a bunch of points. Give me the
Yeah.
over. I know that it's going to be a high total of 69.5, but Washington State should really score like 50, should score 50 or 45 plus. Give me the Cougs to score a bunch of points.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna lay the points here just because I
I'll
think
go
Utah
team total
State.
over instead.
That's fair. Utah State, I think, is like the worst team in the Mountain West if it wasn't for Navy or not Navy, Air Force. If it wasn't for Air Force, it'd be Utah State, in my opinion. Nevada, you could argue, is being one of the worst ones in the Mountain West as well, but Utah State's bad. I just think the Cougars roll it however you want to get on them. Team total over 50. I think 50 is low.
It's
I
going to
think
be a really, really fun game.
Yeah, Washington's gonna score. Let's get to our best bet here. And before we do, we got to remind this is our best bet. This is a game we have our best bet in. Army minus 4.5, total 63.5. North Texas. Oof, I'll let you lead it off here with North Texas. Talking about Mean Green. It's hard to get against anybody called the Mean Green. I mean,
yeah.
just, it's the Mean Green. It's like arguably maybe one of the best names for a college football. The Mean Green. It's just, there's some out there, but whatever.
It's not even like a nice green. It's a mean green.
It's mean.
Like, you can't even use it to paint anything. It's a mean green.
The Hawk is angry. This is mean. You don't want to make the Hawk angry, but you don't want to make North Texas mean either. What are your thoughts here on this matchup?
So it's North Texas. At the end of the day, there's one thing they're really good at, and that is having overs in their games because they score a bunch of points, and damn, they can't stop anybody. They're really bad against the run too. We know Army is one of the best rushing attacks in the entire country. Now, last week they did win against Air Force. Game was hideous. Not Army's fault because Daly was a last-second scratch, so they were missing their potential Heisman candidate quarterback. He's back in the lineup, or at least he's projected to be. According to reports, he's trending well, which is very good to see. But I feel like this game's going to be a track meet because Army's secondary, I don't think it's that great. And I think you're looking at North Texas spreading him out, throwing a bunch of deep passes. Army, though, to run it down their throats. I see a bunch of points. I see a bunch of, I'd say, quick scoring drives between these two teams, and the pace should be incredible. So I am going to go with the over as the play here. I get that it's a high total, and maybe you want to wait for Daly to be confirmed, but I just see a ton of points when these teams get together. Give me the over 63.5.
I'll be honest with you. If he plays, I think it hits 70.
I think it could.
I think without him, I think this is a little bit of a sweat, closer to a sweat. But I think this game, I don't see how either team doesn't get into the 30s.
There is easily a world. There's in a world where either of these teams get to 40, depending on game script. Like, I think that's a possibility. So with two offenses that have been really clicking this season, and especially North Texas defense being involved, I got to go over. I just see a bunch of points.
I can't wait to watch this game.
Yeah,
I can't wait to watch this game. If you want, this is going to be video game type stuff. It's going to look like two 12-year-olds playing video games. You're going to get a lot of points here, over 63.5. Want to head over to the chat. I know we got a few chats, so we're going to go catch up on that. That's our best bet, though. We're rolling on some best bets. We're going Army, North Texas. Mean Green goes over. Where did I leave off on the chat? I agree with Penn State win, but it will be emotionally crushing to lose last week. We'll run through there. Do they cover the spread? Yep, we already talked about that. Nope. And the air sucked out of the stadium when they didn't score at the end. It was bad, Penn State. It really was. BYU still gets no respect at minus 3.5. Utah lost 4 in a row. Still doesn't know who their quarterback is.
That's where I'm at. Like, I feel like it's a good spot for Utah. And in most years, I'd pick them at home. They're not very good this year.
No, absolutely. And they're in shambles. And that just shows a lot of leadership problems. Pitt is screwed. That's fair. Does Indiana cover the spread? We talked about this game earlier. Rewind, but I'm on Indiana. And
I'm gonna say yes. I think that this game might be close early, but I think Indiana, offensively with Rourke being healthy, is just too much for Michigan to handle. I don't trust them to actually
complete a forward pass.
Indiana beats everybody by double digits right now. And you can argue that it's a weak schedule. Not their fault. Michigan turned out to be terrible. It's not their problem. I see Indiana once again dropping somewhere in the 30s probably. You could argue maybe against Michigan's defense, high 20s, but that's probably enough. I think Michigan offensively is just not very good.
I should do that. Nah, whatever. Sorry, I'm just playing with toys now behind the scenes.
It's all
good. Other comment. Next comment was Washington State should score 50.
That's where I'm at. I mean, Utah State can't stop anybody.
I love the over there. My best bet: Iowa State, Georgia, UNLV from Thomas. All right, get on that. Agree on that. Iowa State, Arizona State as well from Thomas.
That's a fun game. That's a very underrated game on the card because that UCF Arizona State game should be fun. I'm happy that UCF switched quarterbacks. This quarterback can actually throw, and they beat Arizona by like 40 points. So that might be an over I like too with those two teams. But that's definitely a fun game. I think one of the best games, of course, we're looking at the Ole Miss and Georgia game and stuff like that.
Right.
That Colorado game against Tech should be a lot of fun. There are
That
a
should
lot
be
of
a
good
lot.
games
That
on.
should be a good game.
Maybe not for like betting in terms of angles, but in terms of just watching competitive football, there are a lot of really tight games on paper.
Yeah, agreed. Thoughts on this? Any thoughts on tonight's game? I got App State tonight, East Carolina tonight, FAU in East Carolina, I should say, App State and Coastal Carolina. I personally, I'm on Coastal and I'm on East Carolina. I'm on both home teams, but I also have them in a teaser. East Carolina down, Coastal Carolina up. But any thoughts on tonight's games?
Well, the issue I have with App State is that for years since their coach took over, he's been really bad on the road and really good at home. And that's
Mhm.
been the same case this year, for example. So they beat Old Dominion, who's in good form. You're going down the line, beat Georgia State. But so far this season, App State is currently 1-3 straight up on the road. So I'm not really sold on it. And they did end up beating East Carolina. I believe they trailed by a lot in that game, actually. They trailed 16-0 after a quarter in that game. So App State was very close to being 0-4 on the road. That kind of scares me off. Some teams are just built to
That's
perform at
fair.
home and no-show road games. So I feel like that's kind of why I am leaning more against App State. If you want to go App State, I think they might be the better team, but I still can't really trust them on the road, which is the problem. But I've seen Coastal play. I don't think Coastal's that good. So I feel like it's kind of a trade-off there. App State really should cover just based on talent. So
Right.
it's a matter of if they show up for a road game or not.
That's what I feel here, and that's what like I passed individually. Like on the teaser part, you're gonna give me Coastal +8 on a 6-point teaser, over the touchdown, over all those key numbers. I'll take that because I think they're both mediocre. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. So
I think App State's more talented than Coastal, but App State still can't play on the road.
fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's going to wrap it up for us, though. We're here every Thursday breaking this down. College Cappers Top 25 breakdown, 7 o'clock Eastern every Thursday. This is our best bet here, Army, North Texas, over 63.5. Don't forget, comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Share us out. We'd love it. We'd love it. Drop the comment if you're watching after the live. Drop that in there as well. Appreciate you, Thomas, stopping by as always. And Washington gave Indiana a game. Washington gave Indiana a game.
I don't know about a game. They gave them a half.
That's a better
They
statement.
got kind of buried at the end, but for a half, they were in there.
For a half, they were in there. For a half, they were in there. Appreciate everybody stopping by. We'll see you guys next week. Good luck, unless you're against us. Take care, folks.